in celebration of the 5th Indiana Jones movie being released in a few weeks, my loyal test subjects and I will soon be tackling the very first Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, fans of these films will remember that Indy and his father Henry have a tendency to believe these mythical items to be true, probably due to their religious upbringing in the beginning of the last century. Henry Sr.'s life mission is to find the Holy Grail, the cup purported to have been used to collect Christ's blood while on the cross. But Indy's first official adventure on our screens was also about finding a very important religious item, the Ark of the Covenant. So, what is the Ark of the Covenant? A warning here, I am not a theologian, a student of biblical stories, nor a religious expert by any means. So, please forgive me if I had to cut a few corners on this story, as we are here to give a quick summary of the subject matter at hand for the movies we are about to watch on our show, not provide a full historical/biblical account of ancient events. After all, in the end, this show, The Chronomancers React, is all about watching good movies, not religion. With all of that in mind, here we go. The Ark of the Covenant in under 10 minutes. A long time ago, Hebrews were forced to leave Egypt, trying to escape years of slavery. At their head, a man named Moses, who had claimed to have spoken to God and to have received orders to free his people and bring them to the Promised Land. Moses even possessed a magical staff that allowed him to part the Red Sea in order to escape their pursuers. Moses eventually led the fleeing Israelites to Mount Sinai, where Moses purportedly received messages from God, which he inscribed on stone tablets, the 10 Commandments. But Moses took so long chatting with God, 40 days to be precise, that his people, still waiting at the base of Mount Sinai, started building golden statues and worshipping them instead as they waited for their leader to come back. Well, let's just say Moses and God weren't very happy about that, and Moses broke the tablets holding the divine commandments in anger, melted down the golden statue of a calf his followers had prayed to, and fed the pieces to the idolaters who had gone against their wishes. You know, like you do. Moses would, of course, later recopy the heavenly instructions on a new set of tablets for more practical usage after the fact, naturally. During his 40-day convo with God, Moses was told to build a receptacle for his divine commandments, to be carried ahead of their nomadic group as a proud display of his holy power. Very, very specific instructions were given to Moses on how to build this special box. Now, let's be clear here. God gave detailed instructions on how to build this thing, with measurements and all. The receptacle was to be about 1.5 cubits wide and tall, and 2.5 cubits long. Well, by today's standards, that would come down to around 1.20 meters by 60 centimeters, or maybe the size of a coffee table, only if it were as high as your couch. The container would be built out of acacia wood, entirely plated in gold, built with circlets of gold on each side meant to insert long poles so that it could be carried around by faithfuls at all times. The lid of it would be adorned with 2 winged cherubs, also made of gold. Moses declared that the tip where these 2 angels' wings met above the golden lid of the ark would be the point from where God would speak to them. In it were entered, along with other relics, the broken 10 Commandment pieces written by Moses, still possessing God and Moses' potent, predictive, and holy energies. Now, from this point, it becomes a little difficult to accurately explain what happened to this mythical ark. Remember, this is mostly mythology, and a lot of people over the centuries have claimed to know what it was or where it had been taken. I am going to skip a lot of history here because I want to get to the good stuff. But yes, common sense would dictate that the original Ark was stolen in 587 BCE. At that time, King Solomon's Jerusalem was attacked, sacked, and burned by the Babylonians for 2.5 years. Likely, nothing would have survived, not even the precious Ark. Now, I say difficult to explain because recent studies have shown that the man we think of as Moses might have actually been born a few centuries earlier, which would have made the timing of the Ark's presence in most accounts found in history and biblical studies impossible. But who am I to critique official scholars? Anywho, researchers recently found what they have called a hidden passage, secret tunnel in King Solomon's temple, where the Ark could have been smuggled away in secret during the months of attacks by the Babylonians. As it turns out, this large and wide passageway eventually led down to a river, which would have been a very logical means for refugees to flee with this sacred relic without being seen by the enemy. From then, well, it depends on who you consult. Jewish people say it is now resting with them on Holy Land. Ethiopians say it eventually made its way back to Africa and is still there to this day. Some have even claimed it could be found in Ireland. No, really. But it should be made important here that some historical research now shows that this entire narrative of the Ark of the Covenant, the mythology of it, trying to make its chronology fit with the year of the Babylonian attack, the actual date of birth of the actual Moses, and many other historical matters surrounding these things that have become bogged down in contradiction over the centuries, could very well mean that this story could actually have been retroactively created in and around the year 800 after Christ and forced back into the religious narrative later on by motivated faithfuls. You know, the huge. It should also be noted that, at the time, Egyptians sometimes used this form of holy tabernacle in their own artwork, holy sites, and ritual spaces. So, the Ark could actually be, in all actuality, a somewhat generalized symbol used to indicate that God was on their side, more than actually being only one true Ark. Making the Ark of the Covenant as likely to have existed as, say, the Shroud of Turin, which was also more than likely created during this pre-medieval Christian Renaissance. But that's not fun, so let's explore what makes this Ark so powerful. In Indiana Jones mythology, the Ark of the Covenant is, to quote Belloc from Raiders, a transmitter, a radio for speaking to God. He can speak to us through it, give commands through it, and even gave precise instructions on how to build it and carry it around in his name. It is meant to be respected and cherished as if it were a priceless relic from God himself. So let's just say that God is probably not very happy that we haven't found it yet. It is rumored that with the Ark at the front of your armies, you will never lose a war, for God would be with you in more than spirit. But it also has a few side effects. You see, it is God who decides if you are worthy of his intents or not man. So, evil people, thieves, false prophets, warmongers, selfish kings, all of these would try and claim God's powers for themselves over the centuries, and all would fail to the mysterious powers of the Ark. Whenever it was purported to have been stolen from the worthy and the righteous, the aggressors would inevitably endure illness, bad luck, and catastrophes along the way. The Ark belongs to his children. It was intended for his chosen ones only, and not for the misguided or the evil-hearted. So, in the end, is Indiana Jones just chasing a dream? Well, yes, his father's dream. Of proving God's existence, perhaps. For Indy, being able to do what his father couldn't, especially as a young man in 1936, would have been a prime motivator for him. Indy has seen what it has done to his father, the obsession he has developed for the Holy Grail, to the point of withdrawing from his son's life. Does Indy really believe that the Ark is a relic from God? Well, probably not, but his father did. And after what Indiana Jones is about to see in his very first cinematic adventure, Raiders of the Lost Ark, it is not hard to argue that Indy would soon understand his father's lifelong obsession just a little bit better. So, come and join us next week, will you? As my favorite test subjects and I explore the world of Indiana Jones the right way around, starting with Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'll see you then, and stay safe, my kids.